Her journey to healing, reaching women with a desperate cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistance. Now remember there were 4 categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's kind of strange.
It really quite is, and I'm sure everybody else is kind of wondering as well. Well, welcome to
Monday
Night Live?
Sunday morning live. Listen, it's still KW, okay? And we're going to have a wonderful conversation on today. We came on this morning because our guest is coming to us all the way from England, and their time, their hours are ungodly. And so we didn't want to have our friend up at 9 o'clock. Our time would have been, 8 hours, 9 hours ahead their time. And so she would be losing her beauty sleep. Not that she needs beauty, but she needs sleep. So we're excited that we could have our guests come on this morning. So we decided to go live this morning, and then we will do a replay of this on a Monday night. So Good Sunday morning.
Good Sunday morning to you all.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Now, since we're on at a time that's different, we might catch some people who have never watched our show before. So maybe you should tell them a little bit about what KW Ministries is about.
That's a good idea. So my name, KW, her name is Kamala, and my name is Winston. So it's Kamala Winston Ministry. We put the K before the W. She's smarter and stuff. So it's, that kind of stuff. But really, our KW Ministry is born out of our desire to share life's journey. Our own journey as a couple has been challenging, has been rough, we've had extremely dark days when we did not believe that we would ever recover and continue being a couple. And God, therapy, patience, and the list goes on, have brought us this far. And so we said, well, if we are on the struggle boat, there are other people that may be on the struggle boat. And so we were doing some devotional series that we put to writing. And then we started doing this Monday night program to really keep shop, to really open, to really promote our products from the ministry. And then we started inviting people on, and they started sharing their journey. And so we started inviting more people on, and we all started sharing each other's journey. And people would write me and tell me, oh man, what a blessing that was. And I really knew it was a blessing when we had a cancer survivor on, Pastor Newton. And the next morning, it was my cousin, or Kamala's cousin, my in-law, Stacy, that wrote me and said, thank you so much. My own family, thank you so much for the program. And then she would later come on and share her journey. And that's when we knew we had something going. Last Monday night, your dad was with us.
Oh, man.
And his
what a journey that was.
Why are you crying? Why are you crying? And my wife's crying, y'all. I don't know why.
I mean, people's journeys are, they hurt,
They do.
They really reach you in places.
Yeah, but I don't see you crying all the time.
Well, they reach you sometimes.
Sometimes.
When you're
least expecting it.
Yeah.
And so, but your dad was on with us on last week, Monday night, and that was something special.
Yeah. And
I think the most special part of it for you was his memory at almost 80 years old.
I wish I had one like his.
And how old are we? But and so today we have a very special guest whose journey we will all enjoy.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce our guest to us?
Absolutely. Gosh, our guest today, and I do want to start with this. My knowledge of our guest today goes way back. When I think of my earliest experiences in life, I think of Alethea. She was my first best friend.
And we call her Lee.
And she has always been this person who finds life and laughter anywhere she goes. I think anybody, and I believe that this is true to this day, but I believe that anybody that she has ever been in contact with has that experience of her. And so she went through a journey most recently, one that I think would have rocked anybody to their core. And I still saw that life and laughter throughout that journey. Of course, there were times when it was challenging, but her personality shone through. And I feel like her particular story is such an impactful one that it was important to me for us to give her a platform here with our viewers so that you guys could also be a part of it as well.
All right. So let's bring in Miss Lee and let's start the conversation. Normally, we would have people join in the conversation, but we know it's Sunday morning and no one was expecting us to be on, so we're not expecting that we're going to have too many discussion from our audience. And Lee is coming, but this is technology, and it takes its own time and does what it wants to do. So until Lee comes, can you tell me some of your early, your fondest memory, childhood memories, Lee?
So actually, I have this picture in my head of us being at her house because our friendship was not just our friendship. It was also kind of born out of our mother's friendships. My mom and Lee's mom were, at that time, best friends. And so we spent a lot of time together. And I think specifically of this time period where there was music playing. It's probably Uncle D.U. on the guitar, because my mom, her dad, and a couple of others were in a band together for church. And so I have this memory of being at their home, and it was probably one of their practice sessions, and they were doing what they do, laugh and getting together and, practicing and all this stuff. And of course, we would be off on our own adventures. And that's the first memory that I can think of when it relates to a friend in my life. So that was pretty cool. There's a little song that I play on the piano with 2 fingers. And I don't know that she will remember this, maybe she will, but she taught me that song when she was learning to play piano. And it is still the only song I know how to play with 2 fingers to this day.
Well, you're doing better than me. I don't know how to play with any fingers, so you're doing a lot better than me. All right, let's take a break, I think.
Yep, let's go to an ad and we'll be right back.
We are back and Lee's in the house. How are you, Lee?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for being with us. Kamala was just telling me, I don't know if you were hearing her, that the only thing she knows how to do on the piano is play one song with these two fingers. And she said you taught that song to her.
Oh, well done for remembering that because I have no idea what that song is.
Neither do I. I just know I could play it with the two fingers.
Oh, I'm sure if we connected again at a piano, it would just all come flooding back.
I'm sure it would. All right. So, Lee, gosh, where to even begin?
No.
And where to even begin with the people who are listening to us this morning?
Mm.
So, it was a little while back at this point that, and this is how I knew the story that we were hoping for you to share this morning. It was a little while back, you sent out a video and you were talking about something really significant that was going on in your life, and told us essentially that you were going to keep us on your journey, and you did. So give our audience a little background, Lee. Tell us what was happening with you.
Okay, I may have to do a backstory.
Yes.
Kamala already knows, and some of you probably who will watch this, that I've been living with a blood disorder called sickle cell since I was 6 months old. Obviously from birth, but that's when I was diagnosed anyway. And that's a whole other recording. However, as an adult, I've been managing that by seeing my hematologist every 6 months or so for blood tests and just checking that everything's all right, medication's on form, and I'm surviving. I'm doing pretty good. So during one of these tests, some irregularities came up in my blood results, and my doctors were a little bit concerned because they didn't recognize. The moment they had to refer to another specialist meant, what is this? But, God be praised that this is something they saw at its conception. So I was referred to a bone specialist because the results were showing something in my bone marrow. And I saw the bone specialist, and he said it could be one of two things. They had to do some tests to figure out whether it was a disease called MGUS. Still to this day, don't know what that is, or whether or not it's something cancerous. You hear that word and you're just like, yeah, so we're going to go for MGUS. Let's just go for the other one. I'll have the other one, please, thanks. Anyhow, it turns out the question was put forward to myself and my husband whether or not we were planning to have children. Now, having sickle cell was already, how do I put this? It had always been preached to me that having children could be a very difficult situation because I'm a carrier of sickle cell. That could be dangerous to me as a mother, to my child, and to just going through pregnancy. I could die, the child could die, we both could die. No one's talking about survival here. Yeah. So, you grow up with this idea, oh my goodness, stay away from the kids. But along my faith journey and meeting the husband I have now, he is an absolute lover of children. I was like, okay, God, you must be doing something here because what is this setup? Right? So I said to the doctors, well, we're doing our part, so the rest is up to God, really. Little did we know that at that moment we were already pregnant. Yeah, so we're having this conversation with the doctors, and he's trying to get out of us, what the plan is, because the tests that he'll have to run means I can't be pregnant during those tests because it would require having radioactive fluid put into my body so they can scan me and all that stuff. So this was, I think, during the summer. Um, I can't remember what year. Sorry, guys, I'm really terrible with numbers.
That's all right.
I think it was 3 years ago. Um, so he said, okay, let's book the test in for autumn around November time. So we did that. I called him back within 2 weeks. I was like, so you know that thing you asked me about being pregnant?
Well,
Yes, well. So, I mean, he was completely excited, which I think relieved me a little bit because it
yeah.
was like, okay, so regardless of whatever's going on here, this is actually good news. So he's like, okay, right, we're going to keep an eye on you. Go and have your baby, have a wonderful time, and we'll do the test after you've delivered. Great. So, thank God, pregnancy was one of my most healthiest periods of my entire life.
Wow.
Look at God, right?
Look, listen.
My hair was lush, my skin was nice. I was like, come on. And I was literally, I felt like I had a stomach only pregnancy. You couldn't tell I was pregnant from behind. What? When I tell you, I look good, you know. So I was, I had a really good experience with that. I didn't get sick at all. I had one sickle crisis probably 4 months in, and usually I get them in my joints and my back. This one attacked me in the face. Yeah. Even the bone specialist was like, okay, we don't know what's going on, but I think it's actually just sickle crisis in your jaw. Okay.
Wow.
I was in hospital for 4 days. They gave me some morphine and fluids and then sent me home. And that was the only crisis I had the entire 9 months. So I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I could have been having hospital admissions up to 4 times a year
Yeah.
for sickle cell crises, before they put me on a really good bit of medication. So yeah, that was good. And I had changed my diet a lot during that time just because I didn't know what was also going on in the background with all these other things they were trying to research. So I don't know. I think, sometimes the Holy Spirit just kind of prompts you to do something a certain way. And I really looked after myself during that time. I drank loads. I was on the go all the time. So I was pretty fit during the whole thing. So had the baby 3 years ago now. Oh my word. Yeah, he's going to be 4 in April.
So, Lee, let me interrupt you for a second and ask you,
Go for it.
when you found out you were pregnant, take us to that day. Take us to the...
That was like, yeah, God, you got jokes. So what am I supposed to do with this now? But I feel like it was, let me throw a bit of sprinkles in there because you just got some confusing news. So let me give you something to be distracted by right now. Yeah. God's always been good like that with me, When something crazy is about to go down, he gives me a pillow to sit on through it. And I feel like pregnancy was that pillow during that early stage of the madness. My husband, because maybe I'll let you into another little secret. I had actually had a miscarriage the year before. So already I was just like, yeah, it's a no. But at the same time, I had a friend who kept saying to me, when this happens, don't be surprised if you get pregnant again quite shortly after. When you're just like, I'm tired. That was hard. And she was right, because it was less than a year that I got pregnant again. But we were excited about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I took so many precautions, because I'm just like, they tell you it's nothing to do with you and anything you did, but you still feel like that as a mother who's lost a child. You just think, is there anything I could have done? So, yeah, put best foot forward. And it was so much that we didn't tell anyone for ages.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to really hold my husband to like not even close family yet until a certain period has passed.
Right.
So many people don't understand that until they go through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just that.
But yeah.
The need
But it
for
was
that.
a nice secret to have.
Yes.
It was. It was like, oh, we got a nice secret. So yeah, that lasted maybe 6 months, I'd say. And then, you couldn't really hide it much anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And when you feel the first little flutter in your belly, you're just like, oh, it moves. And it just gets more and more real. You hear the heartbeat and, and then the kicks and the handstands that took place in my stomach. Yeah, the child is serious, I'm telling you. But yeah, so it was a good time. It was a good time. Meanwhile, they kept an eye on my bloods because I had to go for blood tests. I think it was every 2 weeks throughout pregnancy. And they were doing really well. So like all levels were like, hey, we're good. So maybe I think 6 months after having Ezekiel, blood work started to not be very happy again.
Yeah.
I almost forgot. I compartmentalized so much that it's like I forgot there was this thing that started to happen before I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay. So also in between that, we moved from London to Milton Keynes. So I had to change doctors and like all the people that were looking after me.
Yeah.
So I had like a tag team because I was going back and forth because we moved house. But I actually went back to London to have the baby because they all knew me. They knew my history. And I thought, you know what? We're not going to change that team until this baby comes out.
For sure.
Yeah. So I had a wonderful transfer. They were really good about, sorting me out with the right people. So I got connected to the hospital where we are now.
Is that socialized medicine I hear you talking about working out so well?
Listen, God's just got this plan that's got my name on it that says, right, so this person needs to be involved, that person needs to be involved at this time, that time. It just all fell into place. And I got on so very well with both teams.
Yeah.
They were just super amazing because we'd had really poor reviews of the hospital and the service where we'd moved to. Even before we moved, my team said to me, Milton Keynes, are you sure you want to go there? With your situation. And I was like, yeah. God's got this, man. We're not worried about that.
Yeah.
So, and rightly so, the right people were put in the right place.
Yeah.
So it turns out the doctor I was referred to for, how can I say, what are their names when they deal with cancer? I can not remember. Yes, that one. It turns out he has also practiced medicine looking after patients who have had sickle cell.
Ah.
Right. Not only
This
that.
is your new doctor.
This is my new doctor. Yes. Not only that, I've forgotten a little bit what I was going to say about him, but I'm sure it will come back in a minute. So I met with him. Well, we met with him. Sometimes I forget this is a we journey. And he was very, straight down the line. I think he could see I was one of those no-nonsense people anyway. Like, I don't need the fluff. Just give me what it is. And how do we deal with it? So he explained that we'd need to do those tests, the PET scan and such, to differentiate between the two things they thought it could be. So I had the scans done, and they confirmed it was myeloma, which is cancer of the bone marrow. Yeah. And he was a little bit confused because he said, we don't really get patients your age with this matter. He says, I expect to see someone who is in their 60s coming to me with this.
Yeah.
I was 41 at the time. Yes, 41. And so he was quite confident that he wanted to treat me as soon as possible to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Right. You know, I didn't really know what that would look like yet, but his confidence made me confident.
Yeah.
My husband would have to speak for himself, to be fair, on all the emotional side of things. But I think he asked all the logical questions, because he's a whole picture guy. He'll see beginning to end, and the in between fine details chick. I'm the, is it gonna hurt? Where do you need to put it? How do I need to prepare myself?
Yeah.
He's more of a, how long is this gonna last? Is she gonna die? Do you know what I mean? You know, he's very straight down the line like that. And my doctor didn't mess about with any of that information, you know. He was just sort of, we hope for the very best, but what we have to offer is has worked, and because of my age, he's just very hopeful, you know. So apparently there is a certain percentage of what we call paraproteins that show up in the blood that cause myeloma to kick off. At the time, mine was around 2 to 5% or something like that. They wouldn't start treatment until it hit something like 17%. So they did all the tests, and that's how they found out mine was at 2%. And then I think it was probably not even 3 months later that it was like jumped to 20 something percent. And he was like, right, it's time to go. I'm just like, okay.
I have a quick question for you, Lee.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but is there a significance between the fact that you entered this already with a sickle cell diagnosis and the type of cancer? What's that connection?
No connection. We have really mulled over this and wondered, is it any medication that I've taken that's brought this on, and he explained to me absolutely nothing I've done, nothing I've taken, no connection between sickle cell disease either. So much so that they'd never seen a patient who had both in this country.
Wow.
So I became the talk of the town, or shall I say the state, or shall I say the island, where they, you know, like all the heads of hematology were coming together in meetings going, hey, we've got this case, how do we handle it? So my hematology doctor, who was dealing with sickle cell, works in the same hospital as the, that word you said, the doctor who is looking after my cancer treatment. And they worked really well together. They were conferring with doctors in the States, as well as doctors in Oxford, which is like the main university hospital here in the UK that handles this kind of treatment. So yeah, I had a whole bunch of people involved. Many of them I've never met. I've just heard names out there.
Slung around.
Yes, I know. But yeah, so where was I in the whole journey?
Well, while you're working that, there's a question I've been trying to find the right place to ask it, and the right place won't come, so I'm just going to throw it in here.
Okay.
You mentioned that you went back to the 6 months after you had your baby.
So talk to us about that 6 month, because I'm assuming that you said, your pregnancy was a perfect pregnancy except for this one incident. I'm assuming that those 6 months were also really good. So talk
Yes.
to me a little bit about the bonding with your baby during that time of not feeling anything, of not having any crisis, of not having anything. What was that like? That I want to call a reprieve, or you call it a pillow,
Yeah.
bonding with your baby during that time, and
It was really
especially
amazing.
from a perspective, from looking from where you are now, looking over the illness and then seeing that 6 months time that you just had to spend quality time with your baby. How was that? Talk to us about it a little bit.
Yeah, super. Um, as I said, it allowed me to forget
Yeah.
and just be, I guess, my kind of normal. I don't know what anybody else's normal is. But we we had a really good time getting to know Ezekiel in them 6 months. Um, I mean, I don't know. It was just really good. I don't know how to explain um, that quality time we had, and it was also, I don't know, like my husband was around a lot, which was really great. I didn't, I mean, as much as sickle cell didn't rear its ugly head in crises, I was still very fatigued and things like that. So as a mum, it was difficult to be up for the feeds and all of that stuff. But my baby did not cry. He weren't one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't one of those screaming children. Whereas, oh my goodness, go to sleep. We fed you, we did this, we that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't that. He wasn't that kid.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was very kind to me.
Mm.
Yeah, very kind. Breastfeeding was not easy, let me tell you. Mothers,
Mm-hmm.
more power to you.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, but at the same time, let me tell you how God was in this as well.
Yeah.
He weaned Ezekiel 2 months before I fell ill with pneumonia
Mm.
and wasn't able to breastfeed for a month.
Wow.
And then straight after that, started going for all these tests.
Yeah.
Literally. Like one day he was just like, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I don't need any of that.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, okay, good for me then, not knowing that this was coming up.
Yeah.
So I literally just, I think it was, I caught the flu or something and ended up in ICU with pneumonia and had a whole bunch of pills pumped into me and
Mm-hmm.
antibiotics and such. And my milk stopped.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but he was sorted, he was already like, yeah, I'm good. He's just a very calm, pleasant child. I think he really gets that from his dad because that's what my husband's like. He's just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good time getting to know Zeke doing, and it's still such a great time. You
Yes.
know,
Was there you know what, let's enjoy today as much as we can, because I don't know if I'm going to be sick tomorrow. Was there any of that, or was there
Or did that come
we're
later
good?
on?
Yeah.
what during that time before
during
everything
the
kicked
six
off?
months during the 6 months when you're doing
In the
really
back of
well.
my mind, it was a still like, okay, God, I don't get it. You must be doing something, and I'm just gonna ignore that right now because I'm having too much fun over here.
Oh wow,
So
I love it.
yes, I can't say I wasn't scared. I definitely was, but it didn't make sense to me. I was like, it doesn't make sense that you've just given me a child if I'm not going to be around for my child. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna leave that where it is. We
Just have
cross that
fun.
bridge when we get there. Yeah.
Talk to somebody who's worried, who's concerned about their future, who is in a state of life feels good right now, but I don't know what's going to come next. Talk to that person.
Oh my goodness. Listen to me, right? I used to live like that every day,
Yeah.
where I was scared to have too much fun because that's going to cause a crisis, or I'm going to get sick, or I'm going to burden someone, or whatever negative thing I could attach to it. Um, and I think I held myself back a lot because of those thoughts and feelings. And I remember I made a promise to myself on my wedding day, just because of how God turned up. Again, that's another recording. But I feel like God put his arms on and he was like, we got a wedding to attend on my wedding day. Yeah. And I was like, there will never be a day again where I don't live 100. I'm going in on every minute, every moment. Because, yes, of course, none of us do know what's, nothing's promised to us. We don't know what's coming next, but we shouldn't live in fear of it.
Yeah.
God said, enjoy what I've given you. Be fruitful, multiply, work, live, right? Because, yeah, right, the earth is a little bit pants at the minute, but what can we do about that? We can only control our immediate circle, right?
Right.
So what are we pouring into that space? How are we showing up for that? If you want your life to look a certain way, you go create it. It's up to you, because time ain't waiting for no one. The rain is still gonna fall, the sun is still gonna shine, and you have no control over it. So, are we gonna dance in the rain? Are we gonna put the shades on when the sun comes out? Right? So, how are you planning to show up? That's entirely up to you. So, I literally, I don't let anything hold me back anymore. And just having that opportunity to have a child was like, wow. We felt like God really loves us. Like, actually, he doesn't just care, but he's fully gone in, hasn't he? Like, he's like, here you go. I was like, thanks, innit?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really nice. I felt loved on. That's how it felt. Yeah. I
I
thought
love
getting married was it, but then baby came.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So, Lee, what I hear you saying in this moment to somebody who is just looking at life and going, I don't know if I can trust what's coming next, and I'm living in kind of this space of fearfulness. What I hear you saying is, don't let those fears get in your way. Go out and
Absolutely.
live the life that God has given you to live as much as you can.
And I hear her saying, don't let those things rob you.
Yeah.
Don't let
Of the joy. Precisely.
don't let them rob you. Yeah. All right, Lee. So our oncologists and our hematologists are working together with doctors from throughout the world, trying to see how best we approach this. Take us from there.
So we all agreed that 6 months of chemotherapy is gonna start the job. They try and
It's
knock
going
out
to
as much of
start the
this.
job.
Yeah. See, there's no guarantee, right, that we're gonna knock it all out. So we'll do the best we can with the meds and see how I respond. And the option is given to me for a stem cell, or what we call a bone marrow transplant. At the end of that, providing they get enough of it in remission. My brain was already like, sorry, what? Yeah, let's just start with chemo. I'm not there yet. I was also quite fortunate that, okay, this is just, I don't know how this works in any other country, but if you can get private healthcare insurance, don't waste another moment. It saved us. So, yeah, my husband has health insurance through his work, and he added me and my son to it. And because of it, I was able to get my chemo healthcare privately. Thankfully, the same doctor who would have done it publicly had a private clinic. And he's the one that said to us, guys, if you have private healthcare insurance, sort it out now. And he said that to us before the 6 months. So while I was pregnant, he told us this.
Yeah.
And so he was like, if it's coming up for renewal, make sure you renew it, which we did. Because he was like, you know, I have a private clinic and there are medication that would be available to you that's not available publicly, and you'll get seen straight away. So he told us pretty much the advantage we would have, and we were able to make use of this advantage. So literally, I came into his office, I think it was the Thursday, and he said, right, we need to start treatment straight away. Your figures have gone up to 20-something%. I want to get this done now. And by the Tuesday, the week after, I was in a chair for chemo. Some people are waiting months over here for chemo, after a diagnosis. So that was a super blessing. And we didn't have to worry about upfront expenses and things like that. It was just get on with your treatment. One less thing to worry about, right? Yes. So chemo was interesting. It wasn't your conventional type where I had to have it intravenously. I was given an injection, a small injection in my stomach, every 2 weeks. And I was given steroids to go along with that to manage infection and all that stuff. Most of the effects I had was from the steroids. The chemo actually came in, did its job, and said, okay, ta-ra, see you later. The steroids were like, I'm going to mash you up.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, I absolutely exhausted. I experienced all the after effects that you would get from your conventional chemo. Insomnia became my friend. It just really messed with my sleep cycle and eating habits. I had so much energy in the beginning stages. I was eating well, preparing all these fancy meals and trying to do, you know, my part of it. About a month or two in, I couldn't even stand in the kitchen. But I'm glad I did all that groundwork, because I feel as though it propelled me, because my body was in a really good state to accept the meds that were coming in. Thankfully, also, the insurance allowed me to take part in an exercise program that went along with the chemo treatment, as well as reflexology, as well as therapy. I was like, look at God, he's got me set up in here. And I didn't know any of that until I got in there and said, hey, did you know we offer this and it goes along with your package? What? Okay, let's do all of it. So what they did in my exercise program, now I have never been to the gym. Do you see the size of me? This is the biggest I've ever been in my entire life. I was a skinny little thing. So gym, what is that? We don't do gym. We just eat food. We go for a walk. But mostly it was because of, you know, anything I did to overexert myself because of the sickle cell would land me in a hospital bed.
Right.
So I found this quite interesting, that I could go to the gym for the first time, because they were monitoring every single thing I did, checking how it affected my heart rate, my blood pressure, all of that. So I learned also that there are some things I can do in the gym and other things I need to absolutely stay away from. So that was great. The aim was to build bone mass so that we could make sure when I go in for a stem cell transplant, I would be robust enough to handle it. Yes. And we achieved that. Yes, we did.
I have a quick question in here, Lee, because you talked about all of the wraparound services, right? And in some of our talks with other people who have gone through different kinds of cancer and different kinds of journeys, we've kind of gotten this message that, you know, it's not just the journey that I'm going through, it's also who's with me on this journey, what else is happening in my life on this journey. So tell us about all of those wraparound services. How do you feel that they impacted you
The healing process.
The healing process in general. And do you think it would have been different if you didn't have those things?
Certainly would have been different. My sleep would have been a wreck. I don't, yeah. Reflexology is your friend. Let me just tell the world. I learned so much about my body through that. Her accessing different pressure points and such allowed me to have better sleep. And to learn things like, oh, your kidneys are overactive. Huh? What? I would never know that. Do you know what I mean? And it then was, I was able to feed that back to the doctors and then go, oh, it could be one of these steroids that's making this happen. So they reduced it. Now, who else is going through chemo that's not getting reflexology, having issues, not realizing until it's too late or until damage has been done? Do you know what I mean? So something like that was like, wow, you know? And doing all the exercise as well, as I said, it helped me absorb the medication a lot better because I was making sure I had exercise before I had the infusion. So they're like, okay, your body's going to receive this much better if you come in just before and do your exercise then. I'm like, right, see, I wouldn't learn that. Yeah. So I think in terms of medical things, all of that packaging was very useful. And I feel for anyone who's not able to experience that just because they're in the public service.
Right.
No one's telling you this. No one is telling you. So it really is research. I don't know, but who's got the head to be researching all of that when you're going through something like this?
Right. Yep.
I think it's a holistic way to look at your life though and know that your body needs care if it's going through something, and that care comes in so many different forms.
Yeah.
Get the sleep, get the rest, eat well, all of that.
Take care of
You
your
sounded
mind.
like you want to say something, Winston.
Yeah, I heard you on several occasions. God set up, God hooked me up, God was really there. Look at God. And I heard that faith talk over and over and over again. How did you build that relationship with God?
How do I cut that down into bite size? It's been a lifelong journey. I was brought up in a Christian home. My family were also brought up in Christian homes. So it's what I've grown up knowing. However, we all live on our parents' faith until we have the common sense to challenge, right?
Yep.
And I say common sense because you really should challenge what it is you've been taught. And that started for me when I left home for studies, where, you know, I had to figure out, who is this God and this Jesus we're praying to? What does he really do? You know, how is he in it for me, or is this a family thing? Right. So I had times in my life where I've tested all of that. And had it proven to me that God was real and for me, not just a family thing or a church thing, you know. So in the ways that he did that are so many to even begin to tell you. But maybe some specific things where he used to talk to me in dreams. Like, I would always be given information of things that would happen before they happened. So I was always given a warning in some prophetic way. And I learned how to trust that, I guess. And it gave me a sense of, I can rely on where this is coming from. So I would test it sometimes too. I mean, there was a time when I was in university and I needed funds for something, and I was like, listen, God, okay, let's just have a real talk. I'm broke. I need some money. I don't know where it's coming from. And I conversate with him like I conversate with you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's wrong, but there's a time and place for how we approach God. But I see him as my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversations we have, I don't know, many might not approve of how that happens, but hey, it's my friend. And I trusted, okay, God, I need this exact amount. I need £40, please. And I don't know how you're going to get this money for me, but I'm a trust that showing up. So I got off my knees with the mentality that, okay, this problem sorted. I can move on now.
Yeah.
Immediately, the outfit I put on had the tiniest pocket right here.
Uh-huh.
2 £20 notes, fresh, spanking from the mill,
Yeah.
rolled up neatly inside, and I was mouth on floor, right?
Of course.
Okay, so when I put God through tests like that and he comes through, you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
Right, so when I'm now in situations like this, going through cancer, and I'm seeing his fingerprint on everything, just the connections he's making, just the, oh, hey, by the way, guess what? I got you some reflexology too. I'm just like, thanks, innit? Right?
Yeah.
No,
You have me in tears. Because what I hear you say is that my relationship with God does not begin in my crisis.
no.
My relationship with God begins, it's a journey. It's a journey that can now keep me when things are dark, when things seem, and listening to you, the experience, the physical experience, things were challenging, but you always had a light.
Yeah. You kind of have to decide as well that you don't know what the journey looks like ahead. You have to trust that to someone who's greater than you. And just, as I said before, show up with your best self to each part of it. Take it in bite size. Like, I'm just going to deal with the next hour I need to get through, because I don't know what that's going to look like. And be honest as well. Be honest with, I'm freaking out. I don't like this. It's not fun. I'm not having a good time here. Hello. Yeah. And God's okay with that. He's just so merciful. But I have had times where he hasn't answered immediately as well. And that was even more confusing. Whoa. Because I have been through health situations before where I've literally laid hands on my body and spoke to it. And like, listen, do you know who your God is? This is what you're going to do. And you are healed. And I was healed, right? So I'm used to God coming through. If I call that name Jesus, I expect results. That ain't no joke. You don't say that word, that name, for jokes, right? So I went through a situation during treatment where I had to have a cannula put in for another scan. Yeah, my veins, they're just not. They're not the biggest. I refuse to speak negative about them anymore. They're just not big, okay? They're dainty, pretty little things, and they don't want needles in them, right? On this particular day, it was like I traveled an hour journey to have this scan done, and I had 3 people attempt to put a cannula in me. I can't remember how many times I got stuck. Now, the tears that come out of me are not normally because it hurts so much. It's more an emotional response to, oh my goodness, why is this happening? Why does it always need to be so difficult? And I take on the stress of how the other person is feeling. I can't handle their emotions. That's what my therapy taught me, is that you need to let them have their emotions. They belong to them, right?
Yeah.
But I'd always be apologizing. I'm so sorry, my veins are not great. I'm so sorry you're having such a hard time. Or, I'm always prepping them ahead of time. And I'm just, I don't want to have people having a bad day when they have to deal with me. But on this occasion, I was left in the room for a moment while they tried to go and get someone more senior to come and do the job. And I had another little word with Jesus, yeah. And I was like, listen, veins, yeah, you need to just show yourself right now. Because, and I did my usual pleading with God where I'm just like, okay, it's a lot today and I really need you to show up.
Yeah.
And he didn't show up. And I was very confused. And I was sent home to have that rescheduled where they could try again another time. And I came home and I was vexed. I tell no lie. I was so vexed.
Yeah.
You drove an
And I
hour.
thought, I was like, okay, God, I know I don't need to know everything, right? But you need to explain yourself for me on this one because your promises says and your name means, and do you know what I mean? All power is your. Hello, how are we doing here? So little did I know,
Yeah.
my body was misbehaving, and I was developing some blood clots in my arm that was causing a pulmonary embolism in my lungs. And God needed them not to do this scan this week, but next week. Because if they had done it on that day, they wouldn't have seen it in my lungs because it had only just started in my arm. So during the next week, we had to postpone even further that test because the PICC line that was inserted in my arm was kicking off. My arm was swelling up and they were just like, get yourself to A&E. They did a scan and they're like, oh, you got blood clots in there. We need to do a proper scan. When I finally went back for the lung test, they saw that I had lots of blood clot on my lungs as well. You know when you'd like shame? I'm just going to
Wait a
discount
minute. I
everything I
thought you
said.
didn't show up. You did show up.
You were
He
very much
full on showed up to the point where my doctor is saying, thank God. Eh? Oh, so you know him? Yes. Praise Jesus, yes, because we dread to think where we'd be now, right?
Yeah.
I know too many people have passed away from this thing. So, yeah. It's my faith became even more steadfast, but it matured in that very one incident. It's like, yes, believe in all of those things. Yes, know that I am, but know that the I am is doing his business.
Yeah.
And if it concerns you, then it's for your good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to sit back and chill now. So, like, there was nothing after that could really push me over the edge so much. Anything that came up was like, oh, God's got it in it. I just have to wait and see what's going to happen now.
But Lee, let me ask you something. Hebrews talks about this idea that when we go through suffering, when we go through challenging times, and just like that, Lee, our hour is up, and Annika wrote us about time is gone, time is up. But Hebrews says that when we go through challenges and sufferings, we should not consider it as God trying to hurt us, but we should look at it as God building us. And what you just said, from that experience where you were in there and they were trying, and I remember when they were trying to get Ari's vein and they were bleeding all over. Well, when they're trying to get your vein when you were pregnant and blood was coming out everywhere, and they were trying to get the vein. And they left, and you spoke to God, and you say, I really need you right now, and it didn't happen. That could have been seen as a cruiser, and I'm sure in that, you said when you got home you were mad. But then as you realize what was happening, that you shouldn't have gotten that needle inside any
There's
vein
no
that
way.
day. And as you see how that matured you, does that text come alive for you, that as you go through these hardships in life, it's God training you, it's God developing
Absolutely.
you, it's God building character?
Yes, he is. And when your experiences are so similar, and I say similar because a lot of mine have to do with health and how my body behaves, um, you realize that you think to yourself, is there really anything more I need to learn? Can we just stop now? Like, it's not fun. But character is something else, isn't it? It's just ongoing. And
Yeah.
the idea is not to remain the same, it's to improve and to continue to just show God through your life. And so I also looked at a lot of my experiences as, and that's why I think I took on the emotions of people so much. I was very mindful of how I was presenting God in those moments to people who might not know him, right? So I'm an empath as well. I take on feelings. I'm feelings all day, every day. So it's impossible for me to not communicate and get involved in all these things and elements around me. So it was learning to navigate that, and in a way where I preserve my mental health as well. And because yeah, never really looked at it that way before. So yeah.
So as we're wrapping things up, Lee, here's what I want for you to kind of close off with. And there's so many details to this that we have not gotten. I
Go and
think
watch
we're
the
just at the
videos.
tip of the iceberg, and we've got like miles of stuff that we haven't gotten into.
Believe.
But I want for you to tell people who are going to be watching this, what's the outcome? What's been the outcome as of today? And what does that continue to do for you on your faith journey?
So the outcome was successful chemo with enough remission to have a stem cell bone marrow transplant. And yeah, as gruesome as it was, um, I'm in full remission now. So I've received healing from this horrible disease, right? Yeah, look at God. But I don't know. We were just so overwhelmed with the how come? Because how often do you hear this, right? That people have cancer and they don't have it no more. Okay, you're almost sort of expecting something else, or it's not quite right, or oh, is there a little bit left? They were like, there's absolutely none there. So my doctor's like, right, back to normal life now. He's like, when are you going back to work? I'm like, all right, mate, give me a minute. But yeah, it's every day I have to remember. I feel favored in that way, I guess. But there has got to be a purpose for it.
Amen.
Yes.
Because not to say that anyone who has completed or had remission, it doesn't mean you're not favored. It's just your journey looks slightly different to mine. You've always been favored. As long as God's in that story, got no other choice. You know, it's the only way he works. So it's okay, well, what are you going to do with that? I had a short period where I was very confused with how to handle this favor. Especially, I've had a few people my age passing away from cancer around me recently. And it was like, you don't know how excited to be or how do I display my gratefulness, my joy, right? And I didn't want to make it too big of a mountain either, or I've got to go out and preach the word and, all that stuff. It's not, I didn't want to give myself a burden of any kind or mandate or, And I was watching a random program on TV, not really paying attention, but you're at an earshot of what they're saying. And someone said on the program, you've been given the gift of time, so just live. Mic drop. I was like, that's it right there. That's it. The only difference between you and I is that I had a more sense of my mortality in a short space of time. Because we're all here not knowing when we may leave this earth, right? I just got handed a ticket that says yours might be in a year or something. Do you know what I mean? But it didn't change the fact that I was living every day on borrowed time. None of it's promised to us, right? Yes. And that continues to be the situation. So I'm in that stage of, yes, I'm on a mission. We all are, right? That means each day you wake up, we've all been given the gift of time. Now so live good, 100%.
Lee, thank you so very, very, very much. If you remember, this is not directed to you, Lee, this is directed to people who are listening. If you remember nothing else, remember you've been given the gift of life. Live. Yes. This has been a great journey.
You said it was going to be good.
I did.
I didn't expect it to be this good.
I did. Again, just the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Having me.
And good morning, good night.
Good night, good morning, and everything in between.
Take care, Lee.
Take care, darlings. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.